Okay, so let's start with you had messaged me yesterday this new terminology, absolute physician disability income protection, and really this need to redefine insurance for physicians. So that really came out of a conversation. That's what our email came from that you had over the weekend. So talk a little bit about that conversation, and this has really been an ongoing terminology battle that you've been seeing for over 20 years in the disability arena for physicians. And so let's just begin to walk through that, even a little bit of what this conversation looked like over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, we've been dealing with this, like you said, for over 20 years. Physicians have kind of coined their own definition of the type of disability insurance that they should own. Um, Physicians say that if you're going to get disability insurance, make sure it's occupation or own specialty disability coverage. It's not really an official insurance term. And so, to a doctor, when you guys are hearing that, um, you guys are saying that the policy that you get for disability insurance needs to protect you from your ability or inability to do your medical specialty, while also providing you the freedom to fully engage in any other paid activity, while still being able to collect your disability benefits. So the insurance company still determines that you're totally disabled if you're not working as your physician medical specialty, and doesn't penalize you for having other income. That's what doctors mean when they say own occupation or own specialty. Problem is that's been around for a long time. So now we have this new set of doctors who just hear the words and don't really know what that means. So make sure you get own occupation, own specialty coverage. Um, they don't understand the whole picture of what that encompasses. So certain insurance carriers and well-trusted institutions have started to use this unofficial terminology to describe their own plans of insurance that they provide to doctors, knowing that doctors are just going to look at it and say, oh, that checks the box. They said own specialty. That's what I heard I need to get in residency. So I'm going to buy that one. These institutions are companies, providers like the American Medical Association or the American College of Surgeons or Northwestern Mutual. And so what they actually provide, and they call it own specialty, but what they actually provide is a policy that pays you an income replacement if a sickness or injury prevents you from doing your medical specialty, period. But it limits you from being able to earn income doing something different. It actually says we'll pay you if you can't be a doctor, provided you are not otherwise gainfully employed. And that's not what you're supposed to get. So we also use the same terminology to describe disability insurance to keep it simple, but we're battling with that first impression that you get from a well-trusted source like the AMA. There are plans out there that actually provide that type of benefit that will allow you to have other sources of income. It just takes you understanding that this discrepancy exists and really looking a little forward at the contract and diving into it to see what, if any, limitations exist for outside income sources.
Yeah, and if I remember from the email you sent over, you even gave the hypothetical that if the physician was earning an outside income, it was actually reducing the disability benefit that was being paid in the policy that was being proposed to them. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and these plans that don't really offer a true definition of own specialty disability insurance, um, if you have other income, your benefit is reduced by a percentage of what your income is now doing something different and what your pre-disability earnings were, leading up to your disability. So, it penalizes you from working in another occupation. And what that's going to do in a real life situation is you might not be able to do surgery anymore. It's hard for you. Maybe you hurt your hand, but somebody wants you to do some consulting work and you're bored, you're sitting home, you want to do something. But then all of a sudden, in the year leading up to disability, your income was down. So maybe you were only earning $200,000 a year when you're usually making 400,000 a year. Um, and you go and you make 20 or $40,000 doing consulting work. Now you've just hit a threshold where the insurance carrier that's paying your disability benefit, since they limit you from being able to earn other income, they're going to start reducing your benefits because you've just taken that job, doing consulting work. And so it's really going to deter you from engaging in anything else because you're going to risk the guarantee benefit that you're getting tax free from your insurance carrier with those
Now,
plans.
so you just brought, I think the real issue that the physician needs to be thinking about is protecting your level of income, your lifestyle, and that tax-free benefit that's being given to you that's going to be put at risk if that policy is, you know, inferior and does not have the things in place that you think it does. Am I hearing you correctly?
Correct. Yeah. If your contract specifically limits you from being engaged in other activities, you need to look and say, well, what does that mean? And most doctors don't sit at home and do nothing. I mean, they went to school for, God, 8, 10 years extra. They start their lives 10 or 15 years later than most of their friends who just finished as an undergrad. Um, you guys, they like to work, they like to be engaged. And if your policy strictly limits engagement, that means you're going to be giving up income replacement if you decide you want to, do something different.
Yeah, now something else you had brought out in that email, how important it is to understand what's in the contract that's being proposed to you.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that for a minute? The
Yeah.
danger of not reading that contract and not understanding the actual wording that's in that disability contract.
Yeah, when you're looking at a disability policy, you just want to skip to the most important part, which is the definition for total disability. It's actually capitalized in any policy that you look at, total disability, and read what it says after that. That is the definition that defines when the insurance company is obligated to actually pay this benefit amount that you are purchasing. And in there, you're looking for language that specifically says that they will consider you totally disabled if a sickness or injury prevents you from doing your regular occupation, period. You don't want it to continue past that with other limitations. So, an example of a plan that an absolute physician disability income plan that you should be getting will read: totally disabled means that due to sickness or injury, you are unable to perform the material and substantial duties of your regular occupation, period. It might go on to explain what regular occupation means, which that's okay, because that'll be your medical specialty. But if you see words that say provided or otherwise you are not gainfully employed or engaged in any other activity for wage or profit, those you want to stay away from. Even though they might use words in their advertising that says its own specialty, its own occupation, if you go and skip to that definition of total disability and you see phrases and limitations for being engaged or gainfully employed, it's not what your your peers told you own occupation meant. That's not the plan.
Okay, fantastic. And so because of that, that's, why you really feel like it's important to redefine absolute physician disability income protection. It's got to cover all of those check marks to be what you need it to be to sustain your lifestyle, to make sure you're getting the maximum benefit, to maintain your income levels. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, we're trying to stay one step ahead of their marketing practices and just say we want to direct you to look at that definition of total disability. So if we're going to call this anything, we're going to call it absolute physician disability income protection. And those plans have absolutely no limitation on the income that a doctor can earn inside of a different occupation if they get disabled from their medical specialty.
Okay. And there are only 6 carriers that offer that type of protection. Am I correct?
Yes, correct. It's also not offered through any employer contract. So if your employer gives you a benefit for being an employee of a group long-term disability plan, it is also not an absolute own occupation disability policy. So the 6 carriers that offer this plan, you have Emeritus, Guardian, Mass Mutual, Mutual of Omaha, Principal, and the Standard. As of today's date, those are the only 6 carriers.
Okay, fantastic.